Yay! I'm here to talk about prayer walking. When I walk around the neighborhood, I keep it simple. Some days I don't pray that much, I don't think. I just walk with Zizi. We just walk. I walk different ways. Sometimes I just walk. If I'm doing a short walk, if the weather isn't good, I just walk on the flat part if my knee is bothering me. There's certain areas, but I pray for either a whole row of houses or I pray for each individual house. If I know people, like in my little circle, I know a lot of people and I know what their situations are, so I'll pray for them. And then sometimes God will just pop into my head different things, like I'll pray for Mary, I'll pray for Dan, I'll pray for Rob, Sam, Nadia. Oh, and it was so cool out this morning. I just thank God right away. I was just like, thank you so much for this cool weather. And look, just as I said that, a cool breeze just came. So sometimes I just keep it simple like that. Whatever I see, I say what wonderful things they are, and I thank God for them. And then I just pray for different people as I go along. And sometimes people will come out of their house, like this time in the winter, I went down to the circle down below, and I usually don't walk that way. I usually like to walk for a whole 30 minutes because it's good for my exercise and good for my dog. So I'll walk a certain place. But this day it was really cold. Really, I think it was right after one of the big snowstorms and right before another one. And so the ice was on the road, so I didn't want to go too far. So I just went in this one little circle, and the fire truck had just been there. I think it was there, so I was curious. I wonder what happened. And whenever I see a fire truck or an ambulance, I usually just pray, but I don't know what the situation is. And this was like a little exciting. I could find out what the situation is and get some, be able to pray a little bit more. She likes to go in the bushes. Anyway, so I decided I'm going to ask them what happened, and it wasn't exciting at all. Something about pipes, and the fire truck left in like 2 seconds. But a lot of people, not a lot, but for that day, because it was cold, there were 3 people standing outside talking about the pipes, and I don't know, one of the guys was a plumber, so they were talking business, and he was giving his business cards. So anyway, I was standing there with these 3 people talking a little bit, and I had Zizi with me, and she was getting anxious like she is now. And so I thought I better keep walking. So I excused myself or walked away and left those 3 people where they were. They were still talking about business. And I walked a little bit away from them with the dog, and I heard one of the neighbors come out of his door screaming at the top of his lungs and like anxiety all over his face, like something horrible happened. And he said, please, 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 somebody help. And and then he closed the door, and I came closer to find out what he needed. And I didn't have to ask any questions because his door is up higher, it has steps, but I could see from my look from the road looking up, I could see he was doing CPR on a little body. And I didn't see the body, but I knew that area of our house is very small, the foyer in these townhouses, so I knew it was only the space of a little body. So I knew that something serious was happening, and so I at first was in shock, and then and I didn't know what I expected. Maybe I expected him to bring the kid back to life and everything would be okay, but I was just watching. And he came out of the door again, and he said, help, please, help. And I knew what he was thinking, like I was telling Dan before. He was probably thinking, I just saw the fire truck, bring it back. And obviously the fire truck had been gone already for several minutes, and I couldn't explain that to him because there was too much going on. So the 3 people that were over there couldn't hear him or see what he was doing. So I just flagged them down, and I said, call 911. And they said, what? They came a little closer. I said, one of you have a cell phone? Call 911, because I didn't have one with me. So anyway, so I came back, and he came out of his house again, screaming again and doing CPR again. And I didn't know what was going on. So I told one of those people, I said, go up and find out what's going on. because they're asking me on the cell phones, what should we tell them? I said, I don't know. It looks like he's doing CPR on a little body. And so they said they want to know more information. So I said, one of you needs to go up there now, because I can't go up with the dog, because that'll make things more upsetting. So, and the dog could have trampled on the kid. We don't want that to happen. So anyway, so that woman went up the steps, and she yelled back out to the guy that was on the cell phone. It's a 3-year-old child, and he's choking. And I heard her say, why are you giving CPR if he's choking? And I went, oh no, he could be. That's not the right thing to do. But I wasn't there, and I don't know just like when we pray for people, when we're praying, like when I pray for everybody's house and different people, I don't know where their heart is. I don't know where they are with God, but I just pray that God would intercede and do what needs to happen there. So I didn't judge. The woman was like, you're doing CPR, but I wasn't getting freaked out yet. I was like, just keep praying, So I prayed for him while all that was happening, and then I saw that there was nothing else I can do. The 2 men that had the cell phones went up the steps. They're all now in the foyer with the kid, and they're calling the ambulance. So I knew there's no more. They don't need me anymore. So I left the scene, but as soon as I started walking, as soon as I came back in the house, I realized this is too heavy for me. This was a big prayer request, and it was like heavy on my heart. So I thought right away, I'm going to text my prayer partners in this. So I texted Mary and Dan and a couple other people, maybe, I know Sarah Gonzalez was on that, and one more person, maybe Sarah, I don't remember, Sarah Schunkweiler. But anyway, I texted a few people, and I knew right away these guys have like a red phone, like the Batman phone. I think he had a red phone to headquarters, or what was that place called? Whatever. Gotham City. Whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, the red phone, hotline to God. I have a hotline to God too, but at that moment I was too stressed out. I was praying, but I just knew I needed more, and I never did that before. Usually I just pray for different houses, and I never have a scene like that. It's usually very peaceful. I'm just walking the dog. But anyway, Mary texted right away. She said, can you go check on that family and see what's happening? And I was like, I wasn't going to do that because they're far away. They're not in this circle. So I was like, I really thought the kid was going to be dead. It didn't look good, and I did not want to hear the bad news. But when Mary said that, I was like, okay, I have to go down there. So I drove down there to see what was going on. The fire truck was still there, and there was a guy playing with a hose or something. So I said to the guy, and before I asked that guy a question, I felt like God was saying, he's going to say something like, we're still working on him, like they're not going to be able to give me information. But I got to ask the question because Mary asked me. So I asked the guy, and he turned to me. It was so weird. And he said, they're still working on him. When he said that, I realized I heard that already. And at that moment, I couldn't have told you, I heard that, and I know what he's going to say. I wouldn't have said that, but it echoed something in my heart. It was like, and the expression on this guy's face went from kidding around with his hose to a little bit more somber. So that scared me, and I was like, and now Mary's going to ask me again to go back. But already I have in my head, I want to go back now. I already did that initial, but I can come back again. So I went back, nobody was there, but I didn't go up to the window to be like a voyeur or to be like a stalker, but I kind of looked at the house because I was with the dog, and I could see nothing happened to the house, nothing different was going on. So I figured they were still in the hospital, which might be a good sign, but I didn't try to think about it too much. I just prayed and left, and then came back again the next day. I still didn't see any signs of people or anything, but I think the next day the curtains were moved. They looked happy. Like when people move their curtains, instead of like that neighbor, everything's closed. They don't want anybody looking in. But when they're open, it's almost like you're inviting sunlight in, and it's a happy time. So I was thinking maybe everything's okay, but I didn't get to talk to the person yet. So then anyway, I went back another day and talked to the neighbor. The neighbor didn't know anything. I told him everything that happened, and he was like, oh, I'll tell you. He's not going to tell me anything. He's all the way down there. So I came back again, and it was at night. I had Zizi. It was one of those cold nights where it went right through your skin. And I knocked on the door. I saw the kids playing inside, so I knew, oh, it's going to be okay. And the man, I learned his name was Emmanuel, started coming down the steps, and he had a smile on his face, kind of, because he saw the dog and he saw me. He remembered that I was there, and I was like, oh, good. I don't even have to talk to him. I know the kid is okay. But I said, I just want to make sure your kid was okay, and I wanted you to know I prayed for you. And he said, I know. I told my wife about you, and she wanted to know where you lived, and all this. And then he said, and I said, good, that's enough. I'm going to go back now. Go back in your house. It's so cold. And he had no sleeves on like I have today. I said, it's so cold. You have no coat on. Go back in the house. No, he said, I cannot go back in the house. Seeing you reminded me of that day. I have adrenaline. I am hot now. It is not cold. I'm going to tell you what happened. And I said, okay. So he told me everything that happened. The little boy that day had been running like he normally did through the house. And like he normally did, he fell down like he always did, but he didn't get up. And he knew something was wrong. So he went over to him immediately and picked him up. And he was like a doll, he said. And he said immediately, he was like, did he choke on something? So he lifted him to try to remove whatever was in there, but he didn't see anything. And then he started doing CPR because the kid wasn't breathing. He choked, the little boy choked on a craisin or cranberry. That was it, a cranberry, a dried cranberry. And that's all. It was just a little thing but it was stuck. I didn't ask any more questions. Usually I don't talk to people. Usually people around here in their homes. But every once in a while I stop and I talk to somebody. And I know some people are hurting. I have some neighbors next door here that have had a tragedy happen. So I know what to pray for them whenever God puts something on my mind. So sometimes it's short and sometimes it's long. And especially in the summer, I love it because I don't have to work, so I can take my time and breathe and really enjoy the day and enjoy praying. But if I'm in a rush, the prayer might be shorter. Like I was telling Dan before, if sometimes I'm in my house and I'm just having coffee and I just walk from where the coffee is to the kitchen sink and I just pray there, that could be a prayer walk. So you can do this. You can walk around your neighborhood. You can walk just right on your front step and pray for people right around you. Also, I just thought of another thing. When you're driving in your car, you can pray for people at the stop sign. Somebody cut you off. Instead of saying something mean, you can pray for them. That's what I try to do. I might be starting to say something mean, but then I think that person needs prayer. They need God's love. And the more you start praying that way, you start seeing people not as mean people, but as empty. You start seeing them the way God sees them. You see an empty heart. You start seeing them like I do. Now I'm going to tell you a little secret. When I'm praying, I feel like Clark Kent. I have glasses on. Sometimes maybe I don't wear my glasses, but I can pretend, and I really am walking around. Nobody knows what I'm doing, and I'm praying. And that power is there because I might walk by somebody that I know has received my prayer and has either thanked me or I see it, but I don't always see it. But I know God is real and I know He is doing amazing things in His name. His glory is all around us. You look at the trees, you look at the sun, you look at the sky. He made all of this. He made me, He made you. He is amazing. He does such amazing things. So when you go out there, you're not yourself anymore. You might think you're yourself, but when you have that power of Jesus in your heart and you remember to pray, you are using that power, and then it just gets bigger and bigger, and you become a superhero, and you can be that superhero just like me. Jesus is my superhero, and you can be a superhero too.